Welcome to Bold Talk series where creativity, leadership, ideas, and innovation come together. My name is Ludvik, and today I have a privilege to have a short one-on-one conversation with Anand Deshpande, the founder and chairman of Persistent. Anand, great seeing you, my friend, and welcome to our Bold Talk series. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for inviting me, Happy. It's an
Uh,
honor to be on this one.
Great seeing you, Anand. Can I ask you, like, how what do you do that you keep yourself fresh and young all the time? Every time I see you, you're always younger and fresher.
Have a quick haircut, I guess. No, nothing particularly.
Great.
No, you've been kind.
Great, Anand. Well, great seeing you. Looking forward to this conversation. So let's just start first with for the audience to know a little bit of your background. So tell us about your inspiration, your journey as the founder and mission behind the Persistent when you started.
So let me just set the context. I did my undergrad from India, from the IIT in Kharagpur in 84. Then went to the US, did a PhD in computer science, mainly in the database area from 84 to 89 in Indiana University, Bloomington. And I worked at Hewlett Packard in the research lab for about 18 months. And then the entrepreneurship bug bit me, and I decided to come back to India in 1990 to start Persistent. Um, the motivation was mainly to get back to India. And I was born here, lived here, and having spent 7 years in the US, I felt I should get back. And there was this sort of thing in my mind that if I must come back, I should do that early rather than late. So I pretty much backed off after 18 months of work experience, came back to Pune in India and started Persistent. Persistent, was started when India was not really well known for software. So it was a very early days. Indian software exports at that point were about $50 million. So today they are about $250 billion. So it's been a huge, nice 33 years of my journey at Persistent. We started bootstrapped, really small. Took a long time to get it to a point where we touched our first 100 people in 9 years. But over the last several years, the company is today 23,000 people. We are global in 18 countries, did $1 billion in revenue last year, and our market cap is nearly $5 billion right now. And I have, for the last 4 years, moved on from being the CEO to being the chairman. And I have a full-time CEO who runs the show. So that has given me some room and time for doing other potentially exciting, but more sort of off the business kind of activities over the last few years.
Oh, that's amazing. Um, we'll talk about more about those projects that you're working on right now. Tell us a little about that transition. Obviously, the to give a full reign to someone to lead the company and $1 billion sales. It is not an easy task. So give us that sense of like in terms of the transition, how that worked
Yeah.
for you.
So, it took me almost 3 to 4 years of planning to make that transition. It was not an easy job at all. I
Hmm.
was full on running the business for nearly 30 years. And I had reached a stage where I realized that I could keep doing it for another 3, 4, 5 years. But there was a point where I was not, I felt that there were so many other things I wanted to do where I would not have had the time to do it. So I spent a lot of time talking to my other peers and friends who had gone through the transition both successfully and unsuccessfully, and came back to the conclusion that if you must transition, the three things you must make sure happen. One is you must have something else to do that you are very passionate about. Because if you don't, because as a founder and running a business, you tend to be very engrossed, and passion is what drives you to get your business to go. So you need to find something else that is equally passionate. Second, you want to find something that will last a long time, because you don't want to keep finding new things every few years. So you want to try and pick up something that will last some time. And then finally, in my case, I was very keen to do something more impactful. So it took me almost 3 to 4 years of searching areas, ideas, talking to a lot of people, and then sort of getting to a point where I got comfortable with the fact that, I don't need to run the show personally. I can be involved in the business as a owner rather than as a manager. And a friend told me that you have to make this call, whether you are the horse, you are the jockey on the horse, owner of the horse, and things like that. So you get to a point where you say, I don't need to be the jockey to be part of the business. And I still own a good chunk of the company, but I'm not running the show anymore. And I'm quite happy I made that transition.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of mentorship that goes with it, right? So tell us about the role that that mentorship played in your personal professional development and how you encourage mentorship across your organization and things that you're working on right now.
Yes, I think it's a very appropriate question. And I have been thinking about this topic for many years. And I classify mentors into three kinds, basically. And I'm going to share how I have thought of these and what happens. So I have them, actually, I have Hindu mythological characters to sort of relate to that, but I will not go into those. But suffice to say, the first kind of mentorship is someone who is someone you follow, but they don't necessarily know that you are their mentee.
Mm.
So these are like, so I could follow some people on Twitter. I could be watching, say, what Bill Gates is doing in certain cases, what Musk may be doing, or some other people you admire. You have a lot of people, especially with Twitter and other things, you can follow for different kinds of expertise that they have. So that is one kind of mentorship, and one has to pick and choose what you want to follow from certain people. But with the social media and everything else, this becomes very easy.
Mm.
The second kind of mentors, I believe, is that you need about half a dozen people who know your context well, and who are in a position to challenge you and push you. And I find a mentor mentee relationship is a two-way relationship, not a one-way relationship. So somebody who you want as your mentor needs to feel like engaging with you is fun, worthwhile, and is a learning experience for both sides. So you have to identify about half a dozen people who bring in different dimensions, and you need to keep them updated and engaged, because if they're not so, then when you need them, you wouldn't know how to go to them. So that's the second kind of mentors. These are a little bit tight. You need to know who they are, and they need not always be senior to you. They can be younger people. Sometimes your kids can be very good mentors. I find my daughter and my family members to be good critics and good people to push you on, keeping you honest, asking you hard questions. So a lot of them can be pretty good mentors as well. And then finally, when you have a specific need that you need to access someone who you would like for a specific help that you need, then you need to have a network that helps you get to that. So if you know someone, then they can always point you to someone else who can help you for that specialist work that you need to have. And like, for example, when I was doing this transition, I was looking for people who had made this transition successfully and unsuccessfully. And I found people who introduced me to those kinds of people. I did not know them in advance, but having sort of spread the word around, I was able to get to them very easily. So this kind of stuff is very easily possible, but you need to have a network to get to that. And I really believe in the power of the network, as you say.
Mm.
And one of the important things about the network is that you have to contribute to the network to get things from the network. And it's usually not a one-is-to-one relationship, meaning those who help you are not expecting you to help them directly, but they expect you to pay it forward into the network. So as long as you keep the network flowing, good things happen.
Exactly. Well, that's part of the energy, the positive energy that
Yes.
we're able to transmit from one person to another person. Very well
Correct.
said. Talking about the leadership, could you share challenging leadership situation you faced and strategies you usually employ to overcome such challenges?
Yeah, it's a good question. And, of course, in the last 33 years, I've seen many different kinds of challenges. I'm going to share a couple of sort of broad examples of what happens. So I'll give you an example in the customer context. So we had a situation with a particular customer where the situation, we had a particularly long-term contract with one customer, but then there were some changes on their side and their situation changed. So we realized that the long-term contract they had signed with us would not be beneficial to them beyond a certain point. So they were very keen to renegotiate, and I was getting messages about hostility on some of these topics, and there's always this thing that I'll try to terminate with clause and all kinds of. You could get into nasty situations without resolving it. So I decided that in these kinds of situations, it's best to go upfront and direct. So I called up the manager I was dealing with, actually the senior executive there, and I sort of called him up and said, you know what, I see these rumblings around because of your situation changes. I know that the contract as we have will not be good for you in the future, but I'm not necessarily interested in this one-time contract. I'm more interested in long-term relationship. So can we relook at everything and then do it directly? And once I started that conversation with them very upfront and direct, saying, I understand your situation. I want this to be a win-win for both of us. All of a sudden, the tenor changed. The discussion was very different. The senior leadership that I was talking to on the customer end was very keen to say that, wow, you are willing to discuss this with me. That's so good. I wasn't sure how to approach this. We had a written signed contract. So I was trying to find ways to break it. But now that you brought it up, I'm so happy to work with a partner like you, and we believe you are a partner. And true partners do this. So, sometimes taking a problem head on, putting it up front on the table, and having a clean discussion often is very, very valuable rather than trying to, sort of second guess each other. Putting your cards on the table and just sort of agreeing to discuss as partners. I've seen similar situations on the employee side as well. So a lot of times employees who work with you maybe are not happy, they have some issues and all that. Upfront telling them that, we are interested in working together, we have a common mission. As long as we are together on the mission, there may be differences, but we can figure out a way to work around them. But having that open conversation, which is based on facts and on actions rather than on individuals and personalities, really helps in making these kinds of things. And if two people have goals that are aligned, then it's very easy to come to agreements because you are open about what you want, you're sort of being transparent. And people like that a lot rather than, second guessing each other all the time.
Yeah. Well, you touched that right point. I mean, out of the challenges like that, you can create some great transformative
Yeah.
relationships. I always look at,
Opportunities happen because of these challenges, right?
yeah, and as a leader, you have this opportunity to take this conversation to a transformative relationship.
Correct.
I think this is what you've
Correct.
done, and this is a way to look at it as part of a leadership. And this goes back again to the employees too as well. I always say alignment is more important than assignment.
Yes.
And a lot of times, like when we get caught in a lot of assignment, but then are we aligned to where we're going with this? And I think you touched that a really good point there. Talking about transition, Anand, I know you have transitioned to now being the owner of Persistent. You're doing a lot of different things going on. You never stop doing. You're always a creator and doing a great thing, do good things for this world. Tell us about the things that you're working on right now that we would like to hear.
It's a long question, but I'll try to be brief. So so broadly, I'm working in three areas. One set is around entrepreneurship. The second set is around data technology and healthcare related things. And the third group is around careers and career management and things like that. And again, that's mainly to help younger people to see how to manage their careers. So that's the broad three areas. I feel very passionate about them. I also believe that some of the specific problems I'm working on will never get solved in my lifetime. So these will last a long time. And then, they can be lasting impact. So on the entrepreneurship side, just to sort of share a little bit more detail on it, as a family, we have a foundation that we have been running for about 10 years. It's called De Asra Foundation. So D is for Deshpande and ASRA are the initials of the family members. And we are focused on very, very small businesses. So 500,000 rupees to 10 million rupees. So these are, typically self-employed small businesses, photographers, food counters, beauty salons, barbers, these kinds of. And in India, especially these small businesses, they are in large numbers. but are very difficult to run, and they have all kinds of challenges. The government funding is not that easy to come by, and there are many issues. Compliance requirements are very high. So we have templatized all kinds of things that these small businesses need, and we are able to provide them at scale. So far we have helped nearly 250,000 businesses, and the goal is to see how to take it to 10 million over the next 5 years. So very ambitious plans. So trying to build platform around that. The other area that I've been working on in the entrepreneurship bucket is something we call second orbit. So here the idea is that businesses go through S curves. So you start a business, you'll see certain things you do, you'll see growth for a period of time, and then you tend to flatten out. And business is a sequence of these S curves. It's usually not linear. So when you transition from the first orbit to the second orbit, it is this point where the founder needs to migrate from running his own business to running our business. And that transition is very hard for founders. So we have designed a workshop course and other things to help founders build the muscle and strength to take their business from first orbit to second orbit. So these are the two entrepreneurship areas that I'm working on, which are impactful. I could tell you about others, but these are the two more important ones. On the data side, I have one project I'm working on, which is the India Cancer Genome Atlas. So the idea here is that in India, we have a large population now. We have 1.4 billion people, but a lot of our data is not used for our own research and protocols and medical things. We tend to use Western medicine, so everything that comes in from outside is what is deployed. So I'm trying to help local communities build data sets for research purposes so that our data can be available for researchers, so that next generation protocols can happen about our medicines and our people and all that. It's a long project. We have a lot of gaps in where we are at the moment. So trying to see how to fill in those gaps. So a lot of different kinds of activities to keep busy, but yes.
Well, I'm sure, and that's a very ambitious goal. Is there obviously you could have chose many different ways and different paths here, going after like a small stage startups and so on, but you chose this solo entrepreneur type of the businesses, and this is primarily, I assume, this is in India. Is there a reason why you chose that particular group of people versus the other early age startups, perhaps?
So in India, if you look at so this is very India centric at the moment, though what we are doing can be useful other places. But I started on this because, if you look at where I'm sitting in the demographics wise, we have more than half the population is below the age of 35. So almost 700 million people. So if you divide it any which way, there are at least 40 million, 35 to 40 million people at every age group in India. 25, 30 million people. It's 25 years, 30 years, 26 years, 24 years, so on. So you need 18 million jobs to happen every year. And a lot of these jobs, because of next generation technology, operational efficiency, are going to happen in a decentralized way. So everyone has to create their own jobs. Gig economy is more likely to happen. So we need to have young people or people at this group believe that they can create their own potential for earning. And that is sort of the motivation for what I was looking at. So I observed that if you need jobs to get created, you need creators of those jobs. And you need to help those job creators at scale. 95% of all businesses in India are less than 10 employees. 60% of all jobs in the non-farm sector are with these small businesses. So it's a very large number of very small businesses in India, but they are not very organized. The government has very high thresholds for what they call SMBs, small and medium businesses. So we're trying to see how to look at these a little differently. How do you find problems that are very specific to very, very tiny businesses? We call them nano entrepreneurs.
I like that, nano entrepreneurs. Anand, career transitions. We're living in very special times. Like things are in an exponential growth and no return. You've been in the software business for decades, and you've seen the beginning and to the point that now we have generative AI. What is your take in terms of where this is going to take us in terms of career transitions that we're seeing? is the AI will replace the software developer and all that. So give us this the macro and the micro level.
So, I really believe that technology is going to continue to move rapidly. There's no doubt about it.
Mm.
A lot of new things are going to come, and AI is definitely going to be very disruptive. It's going to do many things that today we labor to do will get automated out because of AI. And AI is going to give us a whole set of new tools, which will allow us to do things we have never imagined in the past. So I'm a big believer in that. The reality, however, of course, is that to use any of these new tools or technologies, you really need to spend a lot of energy in learning about them and talking about through them and understanding them. Because I also believe that in this AI world, the best AI enabled programmers or AI enabled professionals will be like 50 times, 100 times far more effective than those without the AI.
Mm.
But to use your AI, you will need to know enough about it. So that's sort of the AI effect on jobs is what I see happening. That said, in terms of what on the micro side for every individual, I think there is no choice but to continuously learn. Continuous learning has become the most essential skill that you need to have, because whatever you might learn today is not going to remain valid, say 3, 5, 7 years from now. So you have to constantly evolve, learn new things so that you stay on the cutting edge of what is coming. And this requires a lot of work actually.
Mm.
And it's important that everyone allocate enough time and thinking to keep their skills current, because if you don't do that, then automation and everything else is going to make your job quite redundant. So we are in a tough world, and learning to learn, understanding how you learn effectively are the kinds of skills you need to have so that you can survive in these sort of tricky, fast moving, technology changing world as we come up.
Yeah.
But those who can make that change and learn along the way, I'm sure will profit and benefit from these kinds of technology changes.
Yeah. Obviously, Apple has introduced their Vision Pro. I did not ask this before. I like to throw this in you. Um, what are your thoughts about, given the fact that that particular headset has the pretty much a lot of a technology stack that all of these others brands that wish they had that. I took a look at, for example, the product information. Literally, there's nowhere that talks about the AI yet. This headset has the most AI that you can ever find in any of the other headsets. In terms of the workforce, in terms of the future work, and this transition that we're seeing between the physical context and the virtual context, what do you think? Is Vision Pro will be a good bridge for us to see that future coming close to us faster?
I'm not a prophet or anything to tell you that's exactly. But all I can say is that I'm very upbeat about some of these things. The Meta one also is pretty cool. Actually, I saw a demo somewhere where the Facebook Meta version of virtual reality and augmented reality and their whole meta world that is coming up is, I think, very cool. I'm a big believer that I think this is going to change and make technology accessible to a whole lot of people who would not have had access to it.
Mm.
And the whole concept of a programmer, which was well, you got to do a lot of different things to get to that, is getting commoditized, and everyone who can speak and write or basically communicate can communicate to get a lot of things done. So individual productivity has started to go up very dramatically. But as they say, if I gave two students the same essay to write with the access to generative AI, the kinds of prompts that they generate might generate different qualities of results. So understanding how to generate those prompts so that you can get the results you want is going to be a critical skill. And that's sort of where I was relating to the fact that you need to keep learning different ways to communicate and interact with technology so that you are able to be ahead of the curve, or at least be along with it, so that
Mm.
you are able to communicate with the new tools that are happening. And if you are able to do that, your productivity will be significantly better. But
Yeah.
I'm very excited by what is coming up, and I really think that all this stuff is going to be a game changer. And we have seen changes in the last I've been in the business now for the last 33 years at Persistent, but I've been in a tech area for nearly 40, 45 years. Every 5 to 10 years, what we have seen has been remarkable. And it's been so fortunate for us to have witnessed this whole transition.
Mm.
And going forward, I do believe that this is going to continue.
Yeah, I truly believe so too. And you said that very well in terms of the two students, the analogy with the bringing two different results. I always say the quality of question determines the quality of the outcome. And
Yes.
so the one who's able to ask critical questions are the ones who are going to be able to be ahead of the game with these large language models that we're seeing on the AI. Um, Great. This I truly enjoyed this. I wish we have more time. This is a short format bold talk. So we last. What does bold mean to you, Anand? Not bold words, but the name bold. What does it mean to you?
Being bold to me means that you're doing something that is above and beyond what you normally do, right? So anything in any area, whatever it is, trying to do something beyond the comfort zone is what I would say is being bold.
Awesome. Last thoughts. Last final bold thoughts, Anand.
No, I think just be persistent. I guess keep at it is what I would say to you, and that's what I've lived by. And a lot of things will keep happening, but you just have to keep at it.
I love it. Be persistent, and no wonder the name of the company is called Persistent. Great, Anand. Always be bold. Congrats on all of your great successes. I know we got connected to a mutual friend quite many years now, and I've seen you get into new heights all the time. And I'm truly blessed to have this relationship with you. Thank you for joining me, and looking forward to our conversation in the near future. Take care of yourself. Be great and be bold always.
Thank you, Happy.